What happens when a quiet storm walks onto a stage built for noise, and, without raising her voice, brings the entire room to a standstill? The lights of the studio burn bright, almost too bright, reflecting off polished glass tables and the familiar semicircle of chairs. The audience buzzes with anticipation, low murmurs, scattered laughter, the hum of expectation that always fills the air before something unpredictable unfolds. This is live television. This is where personalities collide. This is where words matter, until they don't. And then she walks in. Angelina Jolie doesn't enter like a celebrity chasing applause. She enters like someone who doesn't need it. Calm. Measured. Her presence is not loud, but it's undeniable, like a shift in the air pressure before a storm breaks. The audience reacts instantly, applause rising in waves, but there's something different in it tonight. Not just admiration. Curiosity. Maybe even tension. Across the table, Joy Behar leans slightly forward, a practiced smile on her face, but her eyes, sharp, observant, are already studying her guest. Joy has been here long enough to recognize moments before they happen. She knows when something is about to turn. And something is about to turn. "Welcome," Joy says, her tone light but edged with that familiar, probing energy. "It's always interesting when you come here." Angelina smiles faintly. Not defensive. Not overly warm. Just controlled. "Interesting how?" she asks softly. A ripple moves through the audience, subtle but real. It's a simple question, but it lands heavier than expected. Joy chuckles, brushing it off. "Well, you always bring depth. And sometimes controversy." There it is. The first spark. Angelina tilts her head slightly, as if considering the word. "Controversy," she repeats, almost thoughtfully. "Or just conversations people aren't comfortable having?" A few audience members clap, tentative at first, then growing. The energy shifts again. Not explosive yet, but changing. And this is where it begins. Before we go further, if you love moments like this, the kind that make you lean closer to your screen, make sure to subscribe to Stage View, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling us what you think as the story unfolds. Because what happens next, you won't want to miss. The camera cuts between faces, the co-hosts exchanging glances, the audience leaning forward, sensing something beneath the surface. Joy smiles again, but it's tighter now. "Well," she says, crossing one leg over the other, "let's talk about that. You've been very outspoken lately. Politics, global issues. Some people feel celebrities should maybe stay in their lane." There's a pause. It's small, almost invisible, but it stretches. Angelina doesn't rush to fill it. Instead, she looks directly at Joy. Not confrontational, not aggressive, just direct. "And what lane is that?" she asks. The room goes quiet. Not silent, never silent, but quieter than live television usually allows. The kind of quiet where every breath feels amplified. Joy opens her mouth, ready with a response. She's done this 1,000 times, but something about the way Angelina is looking at her, steady, unflinching, throws off the rhythm. "Well, Joy says, gesturing loosely, acting. Entertainment. That's what people know you for." Angelina nods slowly. "That's what they see," she replies. Another pause. And now the audience is fully locked in. "Because what they don't see," Angelina continues, her voice still calm but carrying something deeper now, "is the years spent in refugee camps. The conversations with mothers who don't know if their children will eat tomorrow. The nights where the only thing separating safety from danger is luck." The room tightens. Even the cameras seem to hesitate, lingering a fraction longer on her face. Joy shifts in her seat. "Of course, and that work is admirable," she says quickly. But, Angelina interrupts gently. It's not a harsh interruption. It's not loud, but it lands like a hand on the table, firm enough to stop the motion. Joy blinks, and for the first time, she's the one recalibrating. "Well," Joy continues, a little more carefully now, "the question is whether that gives someone the authority to weigh in on everything." Angelina leans back slightly, her expression unreadable. "Authority," she repeats. Then she smiles, but this time it's different. Not polite, not neutral. There's something behind it now. "I don't think it's about authority," she says. "I think it's about responsibility." A murmur moves through the audience. "You have a platform," she continues, her voice steady, unwavering. "You can use it to talk about clothes, movies, or you can use it to talk about people who don't have one." Joy nods, but her smile is fading. "And you think everyone should do that?" she presses. Angelina shakes her head. "No," she says simply. I think everyone should choose what kind of silence they're comfortable living with. That line hits hard. There's a beat, just a fraction of a second, before the audience reacts. And then it comes. Applause. Not explosive, but strong. Sustained. The kind that builds not from excitement, but from recognition. Joy doesn't clap. She watches. Because now she understands. This isn't just an interview anymore. This is something else. Are you suggesting, Joy says, her tone sharpening slightly, that people who don't speak out are complicit? Angelina doesn't flinch. I'm suggesting, she replies, that silence has consequences, whether we acknowledge them or not. The tension is palpable now. You can feel it in the way the co-hosts sit a little straighter, in the way the audience stops shifting in their seats, in the way even the air feels heavier. Joy leans forward. And what about the consequences of speaking without full understanding? She counters. Of oversimplifying complex issues? Angelina's gaze doesn't waver. That's a fair question, she says. And for a moment, it seems like the tension might ease. But then, that's why I don't speak without understanding, she adds. It's not defensive. It's not aggressive. It's just final. Joy inhales, preparing her next point, but something has changed. The rhythm she controls so well, the back and forth, the quick wit, the layered humor, it's slipping. Because Angelina isn't playing that game. She's not interrupting loudly. She's not raising her voice. She's not even trying to win. And somehow, that's exactly why she is. You talk about responsibility, she says. But isn't there also a responsibility to stay in your lane? There it is. The line. Clear. Direct. Challenging. The audience goes quiet again. Angelina's gaze sharpens, not with anger, but with something far more controlled. Resolve. My lane, she repeats softly. She lets the words linger, as if examining them from every angle. Then she looks back at Joy. I think that's the problem, she says. Joy tilts her head. Oh, Angelina leans in slightly, not aggressively, but with intention. We've spent so much time dividing the world into lanes, she continues, that we've forgotten we're all on the same road. A ripple moves through the audience, stronger this time. Joy opens her mouth to respond, but pauses. Because for the first time, she's not entirely sure what to say next. And that's when the real shift happens. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. The balance of the conversation is changing, and everyone in the room can feel it. The silence doesn't break all at once, it fractures. A cough somewhere in the audience. A chair creaks. One of the co-hosts shifts, glancing between the two women like she's watching a match that just turned unpredictable. The kind where the rules suddenly don't apply anymore. Joy Behar exhales through her nose, her fingers tightening slightly around her pen before she sets it down with a soft, deliberate tap. She's recalibrating. You can see it, not in panic, but in precision. She's built a career on steering conversations, on pulling threads until something unravels. But this thread? It isn't unraveling. It's holding. Well, Joy says finally, her tone lighter again, but there's effort behind it now. That's a nice way to put it. Very poetic. But people at home might be thinking, okay, that sounds good. But what does it actually change? Angelina doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she studies Joy, not confrontationally, but with a kind of quiet focus, like she's listening to more than just the words. Like she's hearing the intention behind them. And then she nods once. It changes perspective, she says. Joy gives a small shrug. Perspective doesn't feed people. A few audience members murmur, some in agreement, some uncertain. Angelina's eyes flicker for just a second, not irritation, not offense, but something deeper. Something that suggests she's heard this before. Many times. No, she agrees. It doesn't. The admission lands unexpectedly. Joy leans forward slightly, sensing an opening. So then what does? Angelina's posture straightens, not defensively, but with clarity. Like she's stepping into something she knows intimately. Action, she says. Consistent, informed action. The kind that isn't driven by attention, but by understanding. Joy nods slowly, her expression sharpening again. And you believe celebrities are the best people to lead that kind of action? There's a flicker in the audience now. This is the question. The one that's been circling since the moment Angelina sat down. Angelina's lips pressed together briefly, not in hesitation, but in thought. I believe anyone who has a platform has a responsibility to use it thoughtfully, she replies. Joy tilts her head. That's not what I asked. The edge is back. Clearer now. You're one of the most recognizable people in the world, Joy continues. When you speak, people listen. But does that automatically make you qualified to speak on complex global issues? There's a shift in the room again, subtle, but heavier this time. This isn't curiosity anymore. This is challenge. Angelina leans back slightly, her hands still folded, her composure untouched. No, she says. The answer is immediate, uncomplicated, and it catches Joy off guard. For a split second, it shows. Angelina continues before the moment can slip away. It doesn't make me qualified, she says. It makes me responsible for how I become informed. The audience reacts, soft but noticeable. Joy's lips part, then press together again. She studies Angelina now more carefully than before. And you think you've done that? She asks. Angelina nods once. I've tried to. Tried, Joy repeats. That's a very careful word. Angelina's gaze doesn't waver. Because it's an honest one. There's no defensiveness. No attempt to overstate. Just restraint. And somehow, that restraint carries more weight than certainty ever could. Joy leans back again, crossing her arms, not dismissively, but thoughtfully now. She's adjusting, whether she wants to or not. Let me push back a little, she says. There are people who dedicate their entire lives to these issues. Academics, activists, people on the ground. And then a celebrity comes in, and suddenly the spotlight shifts to them. A few nods in the audience. That doesn't bother you? Joy asks. Angelina's expression softens slightly, but not in a way that suggests weakness. In a way that suggests understanding. It does, she says. The answer is quiet, but it lands hard. Joy blinks just once. Angelina continues, her voice steady but carrying more emotion now, just beneath the surface. It bothers me if the focus stays on me, she explains. It bothers me if the work of people who've been doing this long before I arrived gets overlooked. A pause. But that's exactly why I use whatever attention I have to redirect it, she adds. Not to hold it. The audience is quieter now than it's been all show. Not tense. Focused. Joy studies her for a long moment, her usual quick responses replaced by something slower, more deliberate. And you think that works? She asks. Angelina tilts her head slightly. I think it works better than silence. That lands. Harder than anything before. Joy exhales, a small sound that almost turns into a laugh, but doesn't quite make it. You're very composed, she says, almost as an observation rather than a challenge now. Angelina's lips curve into the faintest smile. I've had practice. A ripple of laughter breaks through the tension, but it's brief. Controlled. Because the moment hasn't passed. It's just evolved. Joy leans forward again, resting her elbows lightly on the table. There's something different in her posture now, not softer, not exactly, but more measured. Let's shift gears for a second, she says. Because this isn't just about global issues. You've also been very open about your personal life, your struggles, your relationships, your choices. There's a flicker in the audience again. This is a different kind of tension. More personal. More volatile. Angelina's expression doesn't change, but something in her eyes sharpens, just slightly. Joy continues, her tone casual, but deliberate. Do you ever feel like you've invited scrutiny by being so open? That maybe some of the criticism comes from that. Angelina doesn't respond right away. Change everything. This time, the pause is longer, more deliberate. And when she finally speaks, her voice is quieter, but it carries a different kind of weight. I've shared parts of my life that I felt could help others feel less alone, she says. Joy nods. And do you think that always comes across that way? Angelina's gaze drops for just a fraction of a second, then lifts again. No, she admits. The honesty is disarming. But that doesn't change why I chose to share it, she adds. Joy watches her closely. Even when it backfires? Angelina's expression stills, not frozen but grounded. Especially then, she says. A silence follows that feels different from the others. Less like tension, more like recognition. Because this isn't just a debate anymore. It's something deeper. Joy leans back slowly, her arms uncrossing as she rests her hands on the table again. You don't seem very rattled, she says. Angelina's eyes meet hers, calm and unwavering. I'm not here to win anything, she replies. A beat. I'm here to speak honestly. And in that moment, something shifts again. Not in volume, not in energy, but in control. Because the conversation is no longer being pulled in one direction. It's balancing, equal, unpredictable, and for the first time since the segment began. Joy Behar isn't leading it alone. The audience can feel it. The co-hosts can feel it. Even the cameras seem to linger a little longer, as if they know something rare is unfolding. Joy glances down at her notes briefly, then back up, her expression composed, but her eyes sharper than ever. All right, she says. Then let's be really honest. The words hang in the air. A line drawn, clearer than before, because whatever comes next isn't going to be polite. And Angelina knows it. You can see it in the way she straightens slightly, not defensively, but with intention. Like she's bracing, not for impact, but for truth. The room holds its breath. Because the next question, it's the one that could. The air changes before the words even come out. It's subtle, so subtle most people wouldn't notice it unless they were watching closely. But it's there, a tightening, a stillness that settles over the table, over the audience, over every camera angle waiting to capture whatever happens next. Joy Behar doesn't look down at her notes this time. She looks directly at Angelina, unblinking, unwavering. Let's talk about authenticity, she says. The word lands differently than the others. Heavier, more pointed. Angelina doesn't move, but something behind her eyes sharpens, like a door quietly locking into place. Joy continues, her voice calm, but the intention unmistakable. There are people who admire you, she says. A lot of people. But there are also those who think what they see isn't the full picture. A faint murmur ripples through the audience. They think, Joy adds, leaning in just slightly, that what you present, this calm, this control, this purpose, it's curated. There it is. Not loud, not explosive, but precise. Angelina lets the word sit between them. Curated. She exhales slowly, her fingers interlacing on the table. Not tightly, not nervously. Just grounded. And what do you think? She asks. It's not defensive. It's not confrontational. But it shifts something immediately. Because now, Joy isn't just asking the question. She's part of it. Joy's lips curve into a small, almost impressed smile. I think I'm asking the questions people at home might be thinking. Angelina nods once, accepting that. But her gaze doesn't soften. Of course, she says quietly. A pause. Then. But that's not what I asked. The audience reacts. Just a flicker. A ripple of surprise that travels faster than anyone can contain it. Joy leans back slightly, her eyebrows lifting. For a moment, just a moment, she's caught off guard. And everyone sees it. The cameras don't cut away. They stay right there. On her. On Angelina. On the space between them that suddenly feels a lot smaller and a lot more intense. Joy recovers quickly, she always does. Well, she says, letting out a short breath that almost turns into a laugh. I think in your position, it would be impossible not to curate what people see. Angelina tilts her head slightly, considering that. Of course it is, she replies. The agreement comes so easily it almost disarms the tension. Joy narrows her eyes just a fraction. So you admit it. Angelina's expression remains calm. I acknowledge it, she corrects. A beat. There's a difference. The audience is completely still now. Not even murmurs. Just attention. Pure, undivided attention. Joy leans forward again, her tone sharpening. All right, she says. Let's talk about that difference. Because to a lot of people, it might sound like the same thing. Angelina's gaze doesn't waver. Curating implies controlling a narrative to shape perception, she says. Acknowledging means being aware that perception exists, whether you try to control it or not. Joy's fingers tap lightly against the table again. Tap, tap, tap. A rhythm. A signal that she's thinking, calculating, deciding where to go next. And you're saying you don't try to shape how people see you? Joy asks. Angelina pauses. This time it's longer. And when she speaks, her voice is softer than before, but it carries something deeper. Something more personal. I try to live in a way I can stand by, she says. A beat. What people see is never going to be the whole truth. That lands. Not like a statement. Like a confession. The audience shifts. Not uncomfortably, but with recognition. Because that truth? It's bigger than the moment. Joy studies her again, more carefully now than ever. And you're okay with that? She asks. Angelina's lips press together briefly, then part. No, she says. The honesty cuts through everything. But I've accepted it. Silence. Real silence. The kind that doesn't need to be filled. Because something just changed. Not in the argument. Not in the tension. In the tone. Joy exhales slowly, leaning back again. But this time, there's no immediate follow-up. No quick pivot. No sharp turn. Just space. And in that space, Angelina speaks. Not because she was asked, but because she chooses to. I think the problem is, she begins, her voice steady but carrying more emotion now. We expect people to be either completely transparent or completely false. She glances briefly toward the audience, then back to Joy. But real life doesn't work that way. Her words aren't rushed. They're deliberate, measured, and they're building toward something. There are parts of me that are private, she continues. Not because I'm hiding something, but because they belong to me, to my children, to the people I love. A flicker passes through her expression, so quick it's almost invisible. But it's there, and it's real. And then there are parts of me that I share, she adds, because I believe they might help someone else. The audience is completely still again. Not tense, not reactive, just listening. Joy's posture shifts, subtly but noticeably. Her shoulders relax just a fraction. And you don't think people sometimes confuse those two things? She asks, her tone no longer as sharp as before. Angelina nods. All the time, she says. A beat. But that confusion doesn't give anyone the right to define me. There it is. The line. Clear. Unshaken. And final. Joy opens her mouth. Then stops. Because for the first time in the entire conversation, there's nothing immediate to challenge. Nothing easy to push back on. And that's when it happens. The moment no one expected. Joy leans back slowly, her hands resting flat on the table now, her pen forgotten. She looks at Angelina, not as an opponent, not as a subject, but as something else. Something closer to equal ground. You're very controlled, she says finally. But it doesn't sound like criticism anymore. It sounds like observation. Angelina's expression softens, just slightly. Or maybe I've just learned when not to react, she replies. The audience exhales almost collectively. Because that answer? It doesn't escalate. It doesn't attack. But it lands deeper than anything else so far. Joy nods slowly. And for a moment, just a moment, she smiles. Not the sharp, knowing smile from earlier. Something quieter. More genuine. But then, she leans forward again. And the shift comes back. Not as aggressive as before, but more focused. More intentional. Let me ask you one last thing, she says. The words are calm, but the weight behind them, it's heavier than anything that's come before. Because this feels like the question. The one everything has been building toward. Angelina doesn't move, but you can see it in her eyes. She knows it too. The room stills. Again, deeper this time. Because whatever comes next isn't just another exchange. It's the turning point. And no one, not the audience, not the hosts, not even Joy herself, knows exactly how it's going to land. But they all know one thing. There's no going back after it. The silence stretches so long it almost becomes unbearable. Not empty, never empty. It's thick. Anticipation curling through the air like a storm that hasn't broken yet. Every camera is locked in. Every breath in the audience feels measured, held back, as if even the smallest sound might disrupt what's about to happen. Joy Behar leans forward. Not aggressively this time. Deliberately. Carefully. Like someone who knows the next words matter more than anything that's been said before. When all of this is over, she begins, her voice quieter than it's been all show. The headlines, the interviews, the attention. Who are you when no one's watching? The question doesn't explode. It sinks. Deep. Straight through the surface, past the performance, past the polish, into something far more personal. Angelina Jolie doesn't answer right away. For the first time since she walked onto the stage, she looks still. Not composed. Not calculated. Still. Her gaze drops. Not dramatically, not for effect, but as if she's actually considering the question, not just preparing a response. The audience feels it. This isn't part of the script. This is real. A second passes. Then another. And then, she looks up. There's no smile this time. No carefully measured expression. Just something quieter. Honest. I'm a mother, she says. The simplicity of it catches the room off guard. No grand statement. No layered philosophy. Just truth. And I'm someone who's still learning, she adds, her voice soft but unwavering. Still making mistakes. Still trying to do better than I did the day before. The words land gently, but they carry weight, because there's no defense in them. No performance. Joy watches her closely, really watches her now. Not waiting to respond. Not looking for an opening. Just listening. Angelina continues, not because she has to, but because something in the moment invites it. When no one's watching, she says, there's no audience to convince, no narrative to manage, just choices. A pause. And those choices are the only thing that actually define you. The room is completely still. Not tense, not reactive, just present. Joy exhales slowly, leaning back in her chair. And for the first time since the segment began, she doesn't have a comeback. No sharp remark. No pivot. No challenge. Because there's nothing to challenge. Not in that moment. Not in that truth. A soft ripple of applause begins somewhere in the audience. It's hesitant at first, almost unsure. But then it grows. And grows. Until it fills the entire studio. Not loud in a chaotic way. But full. Respectful. Earned. Angelina doesn't react immediately. She doesn't bask in it. She doesn't acknowledge it beyond a small, almost imperceptible nod. Because the moment isn't about applause. It's about what just happened. Joy glances around briefly, the audience, the co-hosts, the cameras, and then back at Angelina. There's something different in her expression now. Not defeat. Not surrender. Recognition. Well, she says, her voice lighter again, but without the earlier edge. That might be the most honest answer we've had on this show in a long time. A faint smile touches Angelina's lips. Honesty tends to simplify things, she replies. Joy lets out a small laugh, shaking her head. You definitely didn't make this easy, she admits. Angelina's eyes meet hers. I wasn't trying to make it difficult, she says. A beat. I was trying to make it real. Another ripple moves through the audience. Quieter this time, but deeper. The segment begins to wrap. Not abruptly, but with that subtle shift that signals an ending. The hosts shuffle their notes, the cameras widen slightly, the energy loosens just enough to breathe again. But something has changed. Everyone feels it. Because this wasn't just another celebrity interview. It wasn't a promotional stop. It wasn't even a debate. It was a moment where control met clarity. And clarity didn't need to raise its voice to be heard. As the show cuts to a brief transition, the studio lights dim just slightly, and the audience begins to stir. Whispers breaking out, quiet conversations sparking instantly. Did you see that? She didn't even argue, she just. That was intense. Backstage, producers exchange looks. Some impressed, some surprised, all aware they just captured something that will live far beyond this episode. Clips are already being flagged. Moments bookmarked. Because they know what happens next. The internet. And it doesn't take long. Within minutes of the episode airing, social media ignites. Short clips of the exchange flood timelines. Angelina's calm responses, Joy's sharp questions, the pauses, the silences, the shift. One moment in particular begins to circulate faster than the rest. But that's not what I asked. Another. That confusion doesn't give anyone the right to define me. And finally, the one that hits hardest. I'm a mother. The reactions pour in. Some praise her composure. Others debate the points raised. Comment sections fill with arguments, admiration, criticism, reflection. But one thing is consistent across all of it. People felt something. Major outlets pick it up almost immediately. Headlines dissect the exchange from every angle. Angelina Jolie shuts down tough questions with quiet power. Joy Behar meets her match in tense on-air moment. Calm versus confrontation, the interview everyone's talking about. Panel discussions spin up. Commentators replay the clips, analyzing tone, body language, intention. Was it a shutdown? Was it a conversation? Was it something in between? The debate spreads. But the footage doesn't lie. There was no shouting. No dramatic walk-off. No explosive outburst. Just something far more rare. Control that couldn't be shaken. And truth that didn't need to be defended. Back in the studio, as the show officially ends and the applause fades into the background, Joy gathers her notes slowly. She glances once more at Angelina, just a quick look, almost private. And in that glance, there's respect. Not declared, not spoken, but there. Angelina stands, smoothing her sleeves slightly, her expression returning to that composed calm from the beginning. But if you look closely, it's not exactly the same, because something shifted for her too. Not outwardly, but internally. A moment where she didn't just respond. She revealed. And that changes something, even if no one can quite name what. As she exits the stage, the lights dim further, the set resets, and the show moves on. But the moment doesn't. It lingers. In conversations. In clips. in the quiet realization that sometimes the loudest statement is the one delivered without raising your voice at all. And now it's your turn. What did you think of that moment? Was it a powerful stand, or just a different kind of performance? Did Angelina Jolie truly silence the conversation? Or did she redefine it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your take. And if you felt the intensity of this exchange, if you want more moments like this where words carry weight and silence speaks louder than noise, make sure to subscribe to Stage View, hit that like button, and share this video with someone who needs to see it. Because sometimes the most explosive stories aren't the ones filled with chaos. They're the ones that change the way we listen.